Check it out.
Journalism, a program for the people, is a study dedicated to storytelling and pursuing the truth. Welcome to Where You At, a podcast where we take you inside the work of alumni for the School of Journalism and Media Studies at San Diego State University. Our goal, to show you the success of our alumni, inspire students with the stories, and connect students and alumni on the path of journalism and success. Now, here's your host, me, Rami Alarian. Hello, listeners. I am so happy to be here today. As always, we have a very special guest. We have Michael Minjares on today, a director for grants management for the San Diego Food Bank, locally helping out folks and locally raking in some pretty good grant funds for this nonprofit. Now, Michael, how are you feeling today?
Doing great, Ramy. Nice meeting you. Nice to be on. Hopefully I can offer some insights for your listeners to enjoy, and we can get to have a good time today.
On this podcast, I just like to go straight into things.
Okay.
Talk about, the SDSU in the room and ask you how your time at SDSU was.
So I loved SDSU. I was there as a student for 5 years, and then had the opportunity to stay on campus as an employee for an additional 17. So a 22-year run at San Diego State, and was made enjoyable by my educational experiences as my work experiences. I really enjoyed the classes I was involved with. My journalism degree was something I'm very proud of. I knew probably 8th grade that I was going to be a journalism major. It was very likely I was going to San Diego State. Both my parents worked on campus when I was growing up. And so San Diego State was kind of the ideal place for me to go. And as the first in my family to go to college on both sides, it really was a high expectation that not only would I go, but I'd succeed, and that I would earn that degree and really pave the way for those to follow: my brothers, my sisters, my cousins, now nephews. I have a nephew who'll be graduating San Diego State here in May, and another one probably in 2 years. And so really that opportunity to trailblaze was one that I embraced early on. And so it allowed me the time to get involved at the university, really maximize my education, because I wanted to make the most of something that was given to me that not many in my family had experienced prior.
Wonderful to hear. So you come from a long lineage of SDSU alumni. That's amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm the first, but behind me is quite a few folks. My brother graduated. I've got an ex-sister-in-law. I've got cousins. I've got now a nephew, like I said, coming up. And then my daughter graduated from San Diego State as well. My wife is an alum. Most of my best friends are SDSU alumni. So this connection to the Scarlet and Black goes really deep in our family.
That's wonderful. And zooming in a little bit more, what did your time at SDSU look like? How were you involved in any extracurriculars? You were there for quite some time. You were a part of the communications master's program. How did that all go? What were you involved with?
Yeah, so I was involved early on. In fact, the very first thing that got me connected to the university was a job that my dad arranged for me. So my dad was in the lock and key shop over at Physical Plant, and so he hooked me up with a job at the irrigation department. So one of the very first things, before I even started classes, I was working in the irrigation department, fixing sprinkler heads and valves, and learning how to lay pipe and work with PVC. I was doing all of that, really manual labor, quite honestly, as I started in the August of 1984, and then started classes in September. And so that was really the first thing. But once I kind of got into school and figured out the academic side of things, I branched out into student leadership. And so became an SDSU orientation leader, and then an SDSU ambassador. The ambassadors are the official tour guides and representatives of San Diego State University, and really enjoyed that opportunity to lead prospective students and their families on tours and share with them what San Diego State had to offer and how it had made such a difference in my life. And so really enjoyed that piece of it. I was a member of the honors program from the very beginning when I came in as a freshman, and so completed that program, which I was really proud of. I was also a member of the Society for Hispanic Professional Journalists, and so was a member of that organization to kind of get me connected to my journalism area. And then I also volunteered for writing at the KCR radio. And so I was able to do some of that work and rewrite wire copy. And then finally, I also worked for the athletic department in their sports information office. And so that gave me a chance to combine my love of sports with my interest in journalism. And so I was able to be in that space as well. So there was a lot of things that allowed me to build this connection to San Diego State over those course of those 5 years. And in addition, my wife came onto campus a couple of years after me. We were boyfriend girlfriend, obviously at that time, but able to go through the experience together and share some classes together. She was an SDSU ambassador, so we did that work together. And so both of us still feel really connected to what San Diego State offered us.
That's wonderful to hear. And, this next question may seem a little obvious to you, as you kind of already answered it, but why specifically did you choose SDSU?
Yeah, so the SDSU was really on my radar when I was a kid growing up. Like I mentioned, my dad worked at the physical plant on campus, and I remember very clearly he knew a photographer who worked for athletics. And so the photographer would have extra photos, black and white printed photos of football. And so my dad would hand them to me. And if you had to come to my room when I was like 12 years old, you would see black and white photos of Craig Penrose, who was the quarterback back then, or like I can't remember the name of the running back who was on my wall. But I had SDSU college athletes photos from their games on my bedroom wall. And so my dad was taking me to games. I actually got to see Tony Gwynn play basketball at San Diego State at Peterson Gym. Remember very much when Smokey Gaines was the head coach of basketball, and my dad took me to games there. And so it was just that over and over again exposure to SDSU. And for a family that hadn't had anybody really go to a four-year university, it became the only university that I really knew. And so, as I started advancing in my high school career and college was definitely going to be an option, it really was SDSU. I was an athlete in high school, and so I was recruited by two schools to maybe go and run track for them. But they really, didn't honestly seriously consider either one because I kind of knew SDSU was where I wanted to go. And when I looked at the journalism program, knowing how strong it was, it just made a total sense for me to be an Aztec right then. So it wasn't that I couldn't have got anywhere else, but it really almost felt predestined that I was going to be an Aztec.
Understood. And fresh out of SDSU, kind of moving future in time. What did it look like for you?
So as I got ready to graduate, the thought was that I'd put together my resume tape and I'd be sending it out and I'd be looking for an opportunity to become a newscaster. I'd be looking to get into radio or TV news and with an eye of doing sports was really kind of the way I had set up my career path. And so all the things that I mentioned and the ways that I got involved on campus were really designed to give me experience in public speaking, working on my communication skills, my writing skills, getting published. And so that was where I was set up. But what I didn't realize was how much I was enjoying being an orientation leader and an SDSU ambassador, how much I was enjoying that opportunity to connect with prospective students and their parents and share my passion for San Diego State with others and to really get people excited about it. And so as I was getting ready to graduate, a mentor of mine made me an offer. He said, we're going to have to lose an assistant coordinator here, and I know you're graduating and you're very good at this role. I would love to see you step into this position and join me in working here and working on campus. And I know you have other plans, but really think you could excel in this industry. And so I had to think about it. And I remember talking to my dad and I said, okay, Pop, this is what I have an opportunity to do. And he said, well, do you enjoy the work that you're doing? And I said, yeah, I enjoy it very much. And he said, okay, are you signing a life contract? And I said, no, I'm not signing a life contract. He said, well, then try it. Graduate, try it. If you like it, you stick with it. If not, you go pursue your journalism degree because it's still going to be there, or your degree, but you're interest in the journalism field. Go get a job out there in the career field. He said, so I said, you know what? Yeah, you're right. That's exactly what I'm gonna do. So I applied for the job. I got the position as assistant coordinator of new student programs, and I was in that field for the next 14 years. I enjoyed it so much. I enjoyed that opportunity to be on campus, to craft a great program, to work with others in making sure that new students had an opportunity to be successful, in working with student leaders to refine their skills and to find their connection with SDSU. And so did that work for 14 years and enjoyed every minute of it. Loved it to no end. And there wasn't anything I wouldn't do for the organization, for our program, for our student leaders that I was working with. And so, now fast forward 25 years, I'm still friends with so many of my former SDSU ambassadors who worked for me at Christmas time when we get those Christmas cards in the mail. Nearly half of them come from my former SDSU ambassadors. That's how strong a connection we built over those course of the 14 years that I was there. My last 3 years on campus as an employee, I worked in development. I had two young kids, and working in student affairs required, in my role anyway, required a lot of nights and weekends. And I was away from my family quite a bit. And as my kids were young, it just got to the point where I was, in my mind, helping to raise, 60 of other people's kids, and my ambassadors, my student leaders, and I was neglecting my own too. And so I made a switch over to development so that I could be home and be the dad that I really needed to be. And that kind of changed the course of my career was getting that experience as a frontline fundraiser for San Diego State. And then that introduced me to development. And then that kind of led the path for me to end up in the role that I'm currently in as Director of Grants Management, working in development at the San Diego Food Bank.
It's a very interesting path. And do you think your time studying at SDSU still set you up for your career?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. I mean, if I hadn't been at San Diego State and I hadn't been involved in orientation and the ambassadors, I don't know about student affairs as a career field, as an option. So I never even get to experience that. So that's the first way. But the second one thing was knowing that I always had a passion for writing and an app for writing, and I was able to refine that. It set me up so that when I was contemplating leaving San Diego State after 17 years and feeling like I had done all that I wanted to accomplish at the university, I really thought that the next thing for me to do was I wanted to get paid to write. I wanted to get paid to tell stories and to make a difference in the community and to share good news that was happening in whatever organization I was going to be a part of. And that came from my experience with San Diego State, my actual journalism degree, the classes that I took, the professors that I had a chance to interact with and learn from. That really empowered me to feel like I could be successful in a whole new industry, making a change after 17 years. And so I was able to do that. And it's been proven true that San Diego State absolutely prepared me for success in a writing communication driven field.
Fantastic to hear. And looking at where you are now, could you give a little bit of an intro into what it is, what your position is, who you work for, and what it's all like?
So currently, I'm the director of grants management with the Jacobs and Cushman San Diego Food Bank. We are the largest hunger relief agency in San Diego and one of the largest in the state. And our main mission is to get nutritious food out to people in need in our community. And that's our number one mission. And my job as director of grants management is to solicit support from private foundations, corporate foundations, government, and try to bring in badly needed resources so that we can, more often than not, purchase food for folks in our community who are food insecure, who don't often know where their next meal is coming from, and need that a support right now as they go through a tough financial time for most of them. And so that opportunity for me to put pen to paper and make a great case about why our organization needs the support from others uses my journalism background, my communication experience as my master's degree, but also my connection to San Diego over 50 plus years to build the best case I can. And that's with my team. We have a couple other contractor grant writers who join me in this effort. And each year we are tasked with, raising a significant amount of money. This year our goal was $1.8 million by the end of June. We're a fiscal year, so July 1 to June 30 is our fiscal year. And over that time, we were asked to raise $1.8 million to help again buy food for the most part for our neighbors in need. And so it's a daunting task when you think about it, when you start. But as you go through and you put the work in, you recognize how caring this community actually is and how much San Diegans look out for one another and they want to be supportive. And that goes for the foundations, that goes for our corporations, that goes for our local government as well. And so my opportunity to use my degree for something positive on my community is not lost on me every single day.
Amazing. Absolutely. And could you run through a little bit more specifically what your day-to-day kind of looks like?
Yeah, so in my role, we're tasked with doing between 8 and 12 proposals and reports a month, grant reports or proposals. So we're busy. We're crafting our story. We are making our case. We are responding to funders. We're then having to report on how we spent money and the differences that we made and the impact that that had in our community. And so I'm guiding that work every day. So, right now we're on two grant deadlines. And so I'm looking at a proposal and how we are presenting ourselves for an ask for a local funder. And then I'm also working on a report that is going to go and share with another local funder the impact that we had with their funding. And so that's typically on average what I do on a regular basis. But as a member of the leadership team at the food bank now, I've been with the organization nearly 10 years. Is that I'm also asked to, prepare for strategic planning meetings. I'm also asked to do some more high level things. And I love that piece of it as well. Give it a chance to kind of impact the organization as a whole and not just in my siloed area. Grants is important, but what we do too is, we introduce funders to our work. And so just yesterday, I helped lead a tour of a possible new location and some vision that we have for the future with some funders who've been supportive of our organization for a number of years. And I had a chance to share with them what our vision is going forward, had them meet our CEO and talk to some of our development folks about this vision for the future of the San Diego Food Bank. And I got to drive a cart and help give a tour. And so here I am using my tour experience from when I was an orientation leader to when I was guiding the tour group, the ambassadors. I'm still giving tours of the food bank. I'm giving tours now of our new location, of our proposed new location. And so it seems like all of what I did at San Diego State impacts what I do on a regular basis. In fact, when I helped craft our community tour program at the San Diego Food Bank, our chief communication and a development officer, asked me to put together the plan. And when I shared it with her, she kind of said to me, "Okay, I have to ask, how'd you know how to do this? This is so thorough. I don't think you've missed anything in all of the stuff that you've put to this pen to paper. How did you know how to do this?" And I said, "Well, what you don't know about me is I used to run the tour program at San Diego State for 14 years, and I was a tour guide there before that. And so this kind of comes naturally to me." And so she laughed. She's like, "Okay, that makes total sense. I get why this is so thorough and why you're at." So even now, I'm the tour guide for VIPs that come in. When we really want to make an impression, I oftentimes get the call. They're like, "Hey, Mike, we need one of your amazing tours. We've got this person coming in. Here's what we're trying to get accomplished. Can you help us?" And so, yeah, I get to do that. And so it's the writing piece of it. Very demanding in that respect. A lot of proposals and deadlines every single month. But that's the only way you're going to reach your goal of 1.8 million. And I can share with you right now that as we sit with 2 months to go in our fiscal year, we are well over that goal. We've exceeded that goal, and we will have nearly a record-breaking year this year.
Amazing. That's absolutely great to hear. And I'm sure that's a win for anybody listening, especially folks from the San Diego area. They should know how important that is. Similarly to what you're kind of all talking about, this day-to-day communication, this constant planning, this writing that you have to do. Again, this question may be obvious, but how does this all relate to journalism, you think?
Well, I went into journalism because I love telling stories. It's kind of natural. My dad is a wonderful storyteller, and so I love that ability to connect with people by telling them a really good story and to evoke emotion and to build connection. And so that is kind of why I went into journalism, and San Diego State delivered in that over and over again for me. They allowed me to tell great stories. They allowed me to, you know, at the end of my career as a student, pick up a camera and go out and record an interview and put a story together that would, as Dr. Tim Wolfmeyer would say, an A in my class is the story could go on the evening news as is. And I love that. I love that challenge. I love that challenge of putting together something that, in a professor's mind could go on the news today. And that's really what I wanted to do. And so that ability to know how to craft a story, how to make it compelling, to move someone to some action, that's how you're successful as a grant writer. It's exactly what you're asked to do. Now, many of my grant writing colleagues are not fond of being in front of a camera. They're not fond of doing interviews. They're not fond of picking up the phone and talking to foundations. But I also have a degree in communication. And so I love the opportunity to get up in front of people and share our story and talk and, do something like this where I get to talk about our work as well. And so I don't shy away from that opportunity. And I think, as someone said once, you're a bit of a unicorn in that you have the ability to write and edit that you enjoy so much, but then you also aren't afraid to be in front of the camera and tell the story on that side too. And so that's kind of what makes you unique in this space. And I think it's also one of the reasons why we've had such success over the years is that ability to combine both of those communication aspects into one role. And so that's something that I do again each day. and I love that opportunity. Before I got into development, or kind of in between, I also worked as a magazine writer, lead editor, managing editor. And so I had that opportunity to tell a story every single month, put together an entire magazine that was devoted to a community and telling good news and sharing good news of what was happening. And so I got to do a resident spotlight feature every month, a business spotlight every month, write, cover stories. And so did that for 5 years and loved again that experience. Only happens because of my role or my experience at SDSU in the journalism field and the communication background. So all continues to impact my career on a daily basis.
And why do you think your passions and your wants led you to San Diego Food Bank?
Well, that's a great question. So the honest answer is that the mission of the San Diego Food Bank of getting food to people in need is a personal one for me. So I grew up in a family that did not have a lot. Both my parents were very hardworking, but we had challenges here in San Diego, and so we often relied on the support of family and friends, and also other agencies. And so I was a kid who grew up on free and reduced price meals when it wasn't common, when it wasn't something that everybody did. And so I was painfully aware of growing up poor. And so I know what that feeling is like of, wondering how much food's going to be in there or having to ration how much food you had. And so that experience of being food insecure and not having a ton really shaped who I am and what matters to me and the values that I have. And so in finding an organization like the Jacobs and Cushman San Diego Food Bank that has similar core values to what I believe in, and they're helping people who are very similar to how I grew up, means the world to me. The opportunity to kind of give back to an organization that is assisting people in the way that I needed assistance way back when, and my family, that is meaningful work to me. And so that was an immediate attraction. And when I worked for the organization for the first time from 2012 to 2018 for 6 years, it was that passion that I brought to my work. When I left to go write grants for the school district that I grew up in Chula Vista. Again, wanting to give back to a community that meant so much to me, to somebody that would given rise to who I am, and what I was able to accomplish as a student leader. And I was able to write grants for that organization for about 4.5 years. And then had the opportunity to come back to the food bank when the former chief financial officer, when I had been there previously, was named the chief executive officer. So now as CEO, he was trying to round out his leadership team. And he asked me, Mike, what would it take for you to come back and help me lead this organization? And in a very poor negotiation strategy, I said, not much. So unfortunately, that's what I got. But I was back, and I'm back because as Casey Castillo, our CEO, said, he said, Mike, one thing I like about you is that I never have to question your why. I know why you're back. This mission is personal to you, and every day I know you're going to give me your absolute best, and the people that we serve are going to get your absolute best. And that's exactly true. It's what I try to do each day. When I write a grant for the Food for Kids backpack program, for example. If there had been a Food for Kids backpack program when I was an elementary school student, I would have been on that program. And so for me, writing that a grant where we get funds to add more kids to that program, where we are providing them a backpack full of food every single Friday so they can eat over the weekend and come back to school on Monday ready to learn, that's amazing. That's exciting to me. That's work worth doing. And so every single time I get to write a grant for the Food for Kids backpack program, or now even our college hunger relief program, which is a grant that we're working on that's deadline is tomorrow, those are things that I find meaningful. And that's what motivates me to show up every day, do my absolute best, work with my team, and try to meet that goal of $1.8 million dollars in this case.
Fantastic. This constant giving back to your community, to education as well throughout your career, it seems. Before you even started here at
Yeah.
SDSU. Um, what do you think that helps with the grant writing? Do you think that passion? Do you think that want? Do you think writing up a grant, knowing that, this is something that you would have wanted to exist. This might be a program that would be helpful.
Mhm.
Uh, does that help with the process?
I think it can only help with the process. My ability to tap into lived experience informs everything that I do with the role that I have. It's why I carry myself the way that I do. It's why that when, as we joked before we started about me being, perhaps the director of random, it's because of that passion. It's because of there's no job too small at the organization and no job too big, quite honestly, that I'm not willing to give a shot at, that I'm not willing to do because if it means moving our organization forward in a way that we get closer to ending hunger in San Diego, I want to be a part of it. I want to do that. I want to be somebody that our team can count on, that I can show up, whether it's, again, being out in front of a camera or writing a really good grant or editing someone else's work because they know that I can edit well. I'm willing to do that because the idea for me is being a team player is sometimes you're in the lead role and sometimes you're in the follower role. And I don't mind being in either one. It's whatever is the situation requires for us to meet our needs as an organization, which allows us then to meet the needs of our community. And that's what I'm always focused on. So I'm a big believer in using my lived experience. When I share my tours that of my lived experience, it's not always something that is comfortable for me. I have to kind of stretch a little bit and be like, all right, well, I'm going to lay myself on the line and hopefully it's received well. And then invariably it is. But I do remember there was a staff member who has been with the organization now for 7 years. And when she heard me share about my story, it really connected with her because she has a similar story. And so she talked to me a week later and said, you seem so comfortable sharing that story. Like you just put it out there as a matter of fact, and then how this is empowering and motivating you to do the work the way that you do it. And I have a similar story, but I don't feel that comfortable. How do I get there? How do I get to where you're at? And so, we joke there's about a 30-year age difference. I said, well, some of it comes with lived experience and being a little older. I'm a little less caring of what people think of me because I'm kind of secure in who I am now at this point. But the other part of it is I'm willing to risk it. I'm willing to be vulnerable because it means so much to me. This work and this ability to connect with people and get them excited about what we do at the San Diego Food Bank and get them to be a part of it, whether that's as a volunteer or an advocate, an ambassador in the community, or a donor, or perhaps an employee, whatever way you want to connect with the organization, if I can help bridge that and lead you to it, I'm happy to do it. And I'm really proud to say that, that's not just words for me. I live it every day. And the reason why I say that is both of my children work with the Jacobs and Cushman San Diego Food Bank. My daughter is a graduate of San Diego State and in the communication field, and she is our coordinator of digital media. And so she does a lot of our work in communicating with folks about what's going on in our organization and does a great job with it. And then my son, who is not an alum of San Diego State, he went to a different CSU locally, had a great experience there. He is one of our volunteer project coordinators and has been working with the organization now about 10 months. So it's not just myself that is using lived experience to give back, but somehow both of my kids felt inspired by the work that I've done, I guess, and they wanted to join our organization. And so they're both doing it. My daughter's about to celebrate 4 years with the organization. And as I mentioned, my son now about 10 months. And so I'm really proud of the two of them for finding a way to give back to the community in a similar way that their dad is. That means a lot to me.
I think that's a spectacular way at approaching, your career and looking at things um, and finding the motivation to really be passionate about what you're doing. Uh, um, as we kind of wrap things up and we look at things a little bigger picture, is there anything, career-wise, any major moments that um, we haven't touched on that you'd want to put a little spotlight on?
I think we've hit most of my major highlights. But what I want to add is that you're never too far in your career or in your age to do what you're passionate about. And so, as I mentioned very early on, one of the reasons why I chose San Diego State was I wanted to be a sports broadcaster and I wanted to be in the sports area. Now, I haven't pursued that. I haven't really looked at that on a formal basis, but on the side, I do write for the Sons of Montezuma, which is a group that highlights San Diego State athletics. And you'll see some of my articles on their posts. Again, I've been on some of their podcasts. And so I kind of keep a tab on San Diego State athletics. I'm a season ticket holder for basketball, have been for, I don't know, 26 years or something like that. And so really have found that opportunity just a couple of years ago. to write and share my passion for SDSU athletics with a broader audience. And then my wife is an assistant principal at our alma mater high school, Hilltop High in Chula Vista. And their football team needed a new public address announcer, as a gentleman who'd been there for many, many years, went to a new school. And so she said, you know what? How would you like to be our public address announcer? What do you think? And I said, you know what? I'd love to try it. And so this season, or well, actually last 2 seasons ago, I stepped in for the gentleman when he went on vacation. And then this year, I became the full-time public address announcer for Hilltop High football and had a great time every Friday night out there announcing football. And then I got asked by the basketball coach, who was assistant coach for football, if I would do boys basketball and announce games for them. And then I said, sure. And then because I did that, the girls coach was like, hey, we'd love to have you too. And so all of a sudden, I'm the voice of Hilltop High, where I graduated many years ago, and I'm doing high school football. Did both boys and girls basketball games, and so I, do that, and that's a way for me to use my communication background. It's a way for me to still be connected to sports, which I love, and to give back to my community and my alma mater, high school. So it's a perfect way for me to use some of my free time, and be able to give back in that way. And then still, I'm a current high school softball coach. I'm in my 13th year of coaching high school softball. My ninth year at Helix High. We had a game yesterday. We've got a game this afternoon, and I have the opportunity to again impact student leaders in their experience, in this case in a high school. And I love that opportunity. And I love that the San Diego Food Bank and our CEO and my boss, our vice president, allows me the freedom to go and do those sorts of activities and give back in the community in a way that I find personally rewarding.
That's great. Yeah. You can take the sports journalism out of the man, but you can't, or you can take the man out of the sports journalism, but you can't take the sports journalism out of the man.
Correct.
And we're getting very, motivational right now. And in the spirit of that, is there any advice that you might have heard throughout your career that has really helped you, or any advice that you've overheard that has really motivated you?
Absolutely. It's the best piece of advice that I've ever received, and I share it quite often with others who ask me for things like this. And the advice was, many people in their college career, as they get towards the end of it, they start talking about their career, and they're worried about their career, and they want to start their career, and they want to make sure that they don't mess up their career. And the advice that I received was, Mike, stop talking about your career. A career is something you look back on after many years. A job is something you have. So as you get ready to graduate, stop thinking about your career and start really focusing on, what job do I want that can help me grow as a person, as a professional, and where I can make a meaningful difference. Because once you have that and you show that passion, then you're going to stack another job on top of that. And then you're likely to stack another job on top of that. And eventually you'll have a moment where you look back and you can define your career in whatever industry you've chosen to pursue. Because if you had said to me, Mike, this is going to be your path after San Diego State, after you graduate, you're going to spend 17 years on campus doing student affairs and development work. And then you're going to go into, another development career. And then you're going to write a magazine. And then you're going to go to the San Diego Food Bank. And then you're going to leave that and go somewhere else. And you're going to come back to San Diego. It never would have made any sense to say, hey, Mike, this is your career for the next 30 years. Do you want to sign up for it? No one would sign up for that. That's crazy. That's not how things were supposed to work. That's not linear like most of us like to think our lives are going to be. But because I had received that advice about, stop talking about your career and really focus on the job that you want, as I've gone through my career, I've always looked for, what is the job that I want right now? And I don't worry about what my career path is going to be or what my career is going to look like. But now, as I've been in it and I'm 60 years old and I'm about, 37 years into my career, I can look back and say that I've had a career in community development. In every job that I've held, it's about making my community better, whether that's making the campus community better for the 17 years that I was at San Diego State, whether that's making a real community like in East Chula Vista when I was writing the magazine, or a school district community that I'm making better, or in now our San Diego community that I'm trying to make better through my work at the San Diego Food Bank. My career has been spent in community development, and I'm really proud of that.
Fantastic to hear it. I think that's a great send off for us. I appreciate you I appreciate you being on, and I appreciate you talking about this deep passion that you have for your community, and this extremely deep passion that you have to give back to it.
Thank you, Rami. It's been a pleasure. My wife and I were just honored a couple weeks ago for giving back. We actually are Volunteers of the Year for another CSU because of our work with them through my son's experience, and we got involved as parents, and they actually honored us at the North County Philanthropy Council's Volunteer of the Year Awards, and we were their honorees for Volunteers of the Year. And so this idea of giving back doesn't just include San Diego State. It includes lots of other areas where we like to try and make a difference in our community, and it's a platform that we embrace wholeheartedly and give back to as often as we can. So the invitation to come on and join you and to share some of that and talk about my work at the San Diego Food Bank and the difference that we make and the way that SDSU helped prepare me for that has been an honor. Thank you very much for including me on this. It's really been enjoyable, and hopefully your listeners find something enjoyable as well from it.
There you have it, folks. The director of Random, but most importantly, the director of Grants Management. I appreciate you having on, Michael Minjares. Thank you again.
My pleasure, Amy. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Where Ya At podcast. This is Devin Watley from the class of 2021. Thanks to Martine Marine for creating the music you're hearing right now, and Alex Piscatelli for her work on the podcast name and artwork on social media. And a reminder to SDSU alums, we really want to know where you at. Tell us about your career. Get involved in the school. There's many ways you can do this, from donating your time or money, mentoring students, to even speaking in classrooms in person or on Zoom. Your work can help us grow the program and create more opportunities for our students to succeed. Again, thanks for listening. Subscribe to this podcast. Tell your friends. Recommend us a future guest. And go Aztecs.